The animal shelter was noisy that morning. Metal doors banging, puppies crying, workers calling out orders. It was breakfast time at Meadowbrook Animal Shelter, and everyone was busy. Everyone except the golden retriever sitting perfectly still in cage 17. His name was Max, barely a year old with a thick white mark on his chest and eyes that seemed too serious for such a young dog. What made Max special wasn't his quietness, it was what he was doing. He was holding something close. At first, the workers thought it might be a blanket or toy, but when Sarah, one of the volunteers, came closer, she froze. It was a kitten, tiny, weak, shaking, tucked under Max's front paws with her head pressed against his chest like she was trying to hide. Her fur was soaking wet with patches missing, and her eyes were so swollen from infection she couldn't open them. She looked maybe 5 weeks old, and Max, who hadn't let anyone touch him since arriving 3 days ago, had wrapped himself around her like armor. "Where did you come from?" Sarah whispered. The security cameras hadn't caught anything. No worker had put a kitten in his cage. They figured maybe the kitten had crawled in through a broken air vent during the night. But how she had managed to get through all that metal and concrete without getting hurt, and then find the one golden retriever in the whole place who never barked, it didn't make sense. Max wouldn't let anyone get close to her. When Sarah tried to reach in, his body got tense. Not mean or growling, just firm, like he was warning her, "Stay away." And the kitten, even though she was clearly in pain, never made a sound until someone tried to move her. That's when she made a noise nobody expected. Not a meow, but something like crying. She pressed herself harder into Max's fur, and he responded by pulling her closer, licking her ear with gentle strokes. Dr. Michael Carter, the shelter director, showed up an hour later. When he stood in front of cage 17 and saw that shaking kitten buried in Max's arms, his face changed. "She's dying," he said quietly, "but she's fighting." Max looked up just once, his eyes meeting Michael's. Something passed between them. "All right, let's move them together." They took both animals to the medical area. Max walked calmly next to his handler, never taking his eyes off the kitten. When they put her on the examination table, he cried, a deep, painful sound that made everyone go silent. He scratched at the metal table, walking back and forth, panicking, so they brought in another table and let Max sit beside her during the checkup. Dr. Michael leaned in to examine her. "She's badly dehydrated, starving, covered in fleas. Looks like she's been alone for weeks." He stopped. "There's something else. Her back." He ran his gloved hand gently down her spine. "Crushed. Probably stepped on, maybe hit, and the strange thing is it's healing wrong, but it is healing." Sarah moved closer. "You're saying she already survived this?" "I'm saying," Michael said slowly, "that she shouldn't be alive." Max whimpered again. Michael looked at him. "And I'm guessing you're the reason she still is." They ran tests while Max stood guard. When they put in the IV, he licked the kitten's paw. When her body shook during the X-ray, he pressed his side against her cage. No barking, no fear, just constant watching. Michael stepped into the hallway. "I've seen bonded animals before," he told Sarah. "Brothers and sisters, pairs given up together, but this is different." Sarah nodded. She chose him, and he won't let her go. They posted one photo online that evening. Just a picture of Max curled around the kitten. By morning, the shelter's email had exploded with thousands of shares. Messages from vets, rescue groups, animal experts, everyone asking, what happened to these animals? But the real question was one nobody could answer yet. Why is he protecting her like this? Dr. Michael sat at his desk long after the shelter had gotten quiet. On the computer screen was an unfinished form for Max. No history, no old vet records. He opened the security report instead, but all it said was, "Stray found near train bridge, no chip." The only clear thing was when Max had arrived, exactly 3 days before the kitten appeared. Michael rubbed his tired eyes. 3 days, that wasn't random. He clicked on the intake records and typed in the time Max had been brought in. Another entry appeared, one nobody had connected until now. At the exact same time Max was picked up, a call had come in from a small apartment building nearby. Someone complaining about noise, screaming, things breaking. The caller said they saw a man throw what looked like a bundle of blankets into a dumpster. Michael opened the photo files from that day. In the corner of one photo, barely visible, was the kitten, crawling out of the trash, her body limp, and Max standing just feet away, staring right at her. Michael's hand shook as he reached for his phone. "I think he found her," he told Sarah. "I think he followed her here." By the time Michael got back to the medical wing, the kitten was sleeping in a heated cage. Max was lying on the floor beside her, his head pressed against the glass. Michael knelt beside him. "You brought her here, didn't you?" he said softly. Max didn't blink. He didn't need to. The next morning, Michael told the staff everything. The theory, the timeline, the photos. When he showed them the final picture, Max and the kitten side by side in the alley, trash behind them and danger all around, the room went completely quiet. Then one of the senior workers whispered, "He didn't just survive on the streets, he saved her." The story hit the news within a day. This time, there was no doubt. It wasn't just the picture of the hug, it was the whole story. A protective stray golden retriever found next to a badly injured kitten, then refusing to be separated from her. And she was getting better. Each day, the kitten's eyes opened a little wider. She started eating again. The shaking in her legs began to fade, and every time she cried, Max was there. The shelter was flooded with adoption requests, donations, letters from families who saw their pain reflected in Max's stillness. But Michael had already decided. "They're not going anywhere," he said firmly. "Not until they go together." He cleared out an old office and made it their home. Soft blankets, gentle lighting, constant care. Max stayed curled beside the cage until the day Michael carefully opened the door. The kitten, still wobbly, stepped out. She sniffed his paw, climbed onto his leg, then curled under his chest like she had from the beginning. That night, Michael finally cried. He knelt beside both of them, one hand on Max's head, one on the kitten's fragile back. "You saved her," he said, "and now you've saved us all." The kitten had been named Luna. Her condition, once called critical, was now stable. Her wounds had started to heal, and the trembling in her legs had gotten softer. She still couldn't climb or run, but she had gained enough strength to walk a few short steps, always watched by Max's careful gaze. Dr. Michael kept researching quietly. He looked deeper into the apartment complex and talked to residents. Finally, a woman confirmed what Michael had feared. A man had been kicked out days before the animals were found. Screaming had echoed through the walls for weeks. One night, she'd seen something thrown out into the alley, a small animal wrapped in a towel. The kitten hadn't wandered into Max's life by accident. She'd been thrown away, left to die, and Max had been following her, guarding her, from the moment they were both cast out. What nobody could understand was how Max, abused and abandoned, had still chosen to become her protector. He could have walked away, could have escaped. But he didn't. He stayed, and in doing so, he gave Luna a second chance. Then, without warning, Luna got sick again. It started as a quiet night, But by morning she wouldn't eat. Her legs were shaking again. Her breathing got shallow, a fever set in. They ran tests, nothing clear. Her body was fighting, but it was like something deeper had broken open. Max refused to move from her side. When they tried to separate them to give her fluids, he became restless, pawing at the doors, crying softly. So, Michael broke the rules. He let Max stay in the treatment room, and as soon as Luna was brought back, Max climbed in beside her, adjusted her body with his nose, and pulled her against his chest. Then he placed his paw over her small body, the same way he had when they first found them. Like a hug. In the hours that followed, her heart rate steadied, her breathing slowed, and by morning she opened her eyes again. Michael sat beside them, exhausted. "How did you know?" he asked Max. "What did you give her that we couldn't?" Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much. Max didn't respond, but he didn't need to. His eyes said everything. That day, Michael made a decision. No more adoption calls, no more cameras. Max and Luna would stay here with him. Michael had started taking them outside in the early mornings, just 10 minutes in the enclosed garden where sunlight poured through the trees. He would place Luna on a warm towel and let Max lie beside her. Some days she'd rest her head on his shoulder. Others, she'd bat at a falling leaf before retreating into his fur. But then came the morning everything changed. Michael had just placed Luna on the towel when she moved, fully and on her own. She stood, tiny paws planted on the ground, wobbly but standing. Max lifted his head, watching her. For the first time, she didn't look at him for reassurance. She looked toward the door, then she took a step. It was clumsy and brief, but it was hers. Luna took 2 more steps, still shaking but upright, before gently collapsing back onto the blanket. Max was at her side in seconds, licking her cheek as if she'd just performed a miracle. And maybe she had, because for the first time since they'd been found, he wasn't the one carrying her. She was standing for him, but life had another twist waiting. That evening, Max collapsed. It happened without warning. One moment he was standing near the clinic door, and the next, his legs gave out beneath him. They placed him on the exam table and ran every test. His heart was failing, rapidly. The long-term stress, the poor nutrition before his rescue, the emotional toll. His body simply couldn't keep up anymore. Luna was brought into the room. She walked, stumbling slightly, but walked to the table where Max lay. They placed her beside him, and she immediately curled up under his chin the way she had the very first time. Michael sat in the corner, swallowing against the ache in his chest. Max opened his eyes once and looked at Luna. She purred. It was the first sound she had made without fear, a low, steady vibration of trust, of gratitude. The room was silent except for the gentle hum of machines and that tiny, constant purr. And Max let go. There was no struggle, no cry, just a long, slow breath and a stillness that felt more like peace than loss. Luna didn't move for hours. She stayed curled against him, her body pressed so tightly it looked as if she might disappear into him. The staff didn't try to separate them. They dimmed the lights. They gave her time. When she finally got up, she didn't look confused. She looked ready, as if Max had passed her something, his courage, his steadiness, his will, and now she was the one meant to carry it. Michael carried Max out that night with his own hands, wrapped him in a blanket the same color as Luna's fur, buried him beneath the garden tree where they had shared their mornings. And the next day, when Luna stepped out into the sunlight, she didn't wait to be lifted. She walked, one careful step at a time, toward the light Max had once guarded for her. In the weeks following Max's death, Luna transformed. The kitten, who once cried in silence, now moved with purpose. Her steps were still uneven, but there was a will behind them that hadn't been there before. She began exploring the shelter on her own. She approached new volunteers without hesitation. Michael wanted to do something lasting, so he began to build. Out behind the shelter, beneath the tree where Max was laid to rest, a small structure began to rise. Just a quiet bench, a stone path, and a bronze sculpture of two figures. A golden retriever, head lowered, paw wrapped around a tiny kitten curled beneath him. The plaque beneath it read, "In a world that had forgotten them, he remembered her, and because he did, she lived." Eventually, a family came. A quiet couple with a large garden and a rescue cat named Oscar. They didn't ask about Luna's past. They simply sat with her for an hour, letting her choose. She climbed into the woman's lap after 20 minutes, purred once, then fell asleep. Dr. Michael watched them drive away with her nestled in a soft carrier. He didn't cry, not this time, because he knew Max would have wanted it this way. Months passed, then a year. Luna's photos arrived on the shelter bulletin board. Her sprawled in the sun, playing with Oscar, chasing feathers with a wobble in her step but no hesitation in her heart. Each time Michael looked at the photos, he remembered that first morning, the terrified, half-blind kitten wrapped inside the chest of a golden retriever who had already decided she mattered more than his own fear. Years later, when another dog came in, a battered black lab with trembling paws and haunted eyes, Michael didn't rush the exam. He sat, he waited, he watched. Sometimes it wasn't about saving animals. Sometimes it was about giving them the space to save each other, just like Max had. Because in the end, it wasn't the hug that changed everything. It was the decision to hold on and the quiet promise that even the smallest, most broken life still deserves someone who will never, ever let go. Did you enjoy this story? Have you ever seen an animal show kindness like this? Let us know in the comments below. If you like the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Sometimes the smallest act of love can be the reason someone survives. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.